Guys, have you ever had a project in your garage where you really need a bolt or a nut or just a little piece of wire? Yeah, so they have a pretty large collection of all that stuff here. I'm on my way to Trucker's Equipment to get some stuff put on my truck. Now, this is another install video, and what you're thinking is it's probably going to be a ranch hand video. And you'd be right. I'm actually going to double up the bumpers on the front and back of my truck. So I have the Sports Series ranch hand winch bumper on the front, and I have the Horizon Series bumper on the back. And I'm always a little bit leery that somebody's going to hit me or I'm going to get into some type of an accident where the bumpers might get scratched or dinged up. So I'm actually going to have Trucker's Equipment install a Legend Series bumper in front of my Sports Series bumper and a second Horizon Series bumper behind my current Horizon Series bumper, just in case that were to happen. Now, some of the challenges involved with this are going to be mounting it. So they're going to actually fabricate a custom bracket to help mount it on the front of my truck. Now, the back one's going to be even a little bit more difficult because there's really no spot to get the bracket through. So they're going to have their work cut out. No, I'm kidding with you guys. I'm not putting bumpers on bumpers. But this is going to be a pretty cool install video because I'm having some gear put on my truck that I think could be very helpful for people who tow RVs or people who just travel a lot. Now, I don't drive a sports vehicle, and I wouldn't say that this truck's fast by any stretch of the imagination, but what I'll tell you is there are certain times under certain scenarios that you're traveling that you would like a little bit more situational awareness about what's going on around you. And in those instances, it would be nice to have some type of a reminder. So when I get to Trucker's Equipment, I'm going to do a brief overview of the equipment that's going to be put on my truck. It was sent to me complimentary by a company that I'll go over in a little while. But more than anything, I wanted you guys to see firsthand what this equipment looks like and what its function is going to be for. Anyways, look forward to talking to you in a second. And before I forget, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Jeep conversation that I had with you guys in my last video. And, you know, overwhelmingly, people felt it would be a positive addition to my channel to talk about some SUVs, specifically body-on-frame SUVs. If you're not familiar with what those are, that's not the unibody structure that you see in a lot of newer SUVs, such as, you know, BMWs or Dodge Durangos or even the Jeep Grand Cherokee. It's going to be your traditional SUV style frame. It's very similar to a truck, where you have a physical frame and the body rests on top of that frame like you'd see in a pickup truck. So what I'll do is I'm not going to change or shift the focus of my channel away from trucks or RVs at all. That's another thing I heard. A lot of folks want me to stay very, very focused on trucks and specifically RV information. So you're definitely going to get a lot of that. I'm not going to take away any RV content from my channel. If you notice, I throw a lot of videos out, and over the past month or two, I've probably had, you know, roughly half of the videos focus around RVs. So I'm not reducing the content. If anything, I'm mixing it up a little bit more. So guys, what we have here is a K40 radar detection system for my truck. Now, they also have laser jammers and all sorts of other cool technology for blocking incoming laser scanners from police vehicles. However, in the state of Texas, you can't have that, so I'm not getting that put on my truck. Quite frankly, I don't even speed my truck. I drive usually a little under the speed limit in most cases, and the reason why I'm getting this, A, they sent it to me for testing, B, they wanted my honest assessment of it, and C, occasionally you're going to be driving, if you're an RVer, in an area where speed limits rapidly decrease. And one thing I don't like about speed traps is when they're set up in a way or in a position to where you know that you're not going to be able to slow down in time, or it's going to be very difficult. And when you're hauling a big RV, you don't like slamming your brakes on, you don't like seeing those sudden drops, and then all of a sudden a cop appear and you're now ticketed when you really weren't doing anything inappropriate while driving. So I'm getting this system installed. I'm going to go over a few of the components here. This is the front radar detector. This actually gets mounted forward facing out of the truck so it can detect oncoming radar. This is the brain and module itself, speaker, GPS antenna, as well as a control pad. And this thing's pretty cool. This is much, much smaller than I thought it would be. It's about the size of my thumb. if that. It's actually incredibly small. I'd say maybe a ½ inch tall by about 1.5 inches long. But this is going to be used to actually control the radar detector. So in most radar detectors, you know, it's just a windshield mounted unit, and they carry those, but this is a fully installed unit. This one gets mounted inside of the vehicle. It's installed very similar to how a burglar alarm might be installed inside of your vehicle if you've had like a Viper alarm or something like that put in. Then it's got some zip ties and other connections, components here to finish off your install. They guarantee that if you get a ticket, they'll pay it for you. And I encourage you to go to K40.com and their website to actually see what those details are, but it's pretty cool. You know, the instructions that are included are very easy and simple to follow instructions if you have experience working 12-volt electronics, if you've done car stereo in the past, if you've done burglar alarms. But there are some more complex things that you have to keep in mind with this install, such as placement of some of the equipment, and if you're going to custom fabricate the install for this little control pad. Now, that being said, I highly recommend you get it professionally installed by a K40 installer or an authorized dealer near you if you're going to do the install, because there are areas of your vehicles that you're going to have to wire into, and you want to make sure that you're connecting to the right areas. This is not the type of install that you saw years ago where people would just start plugging things into fuse panels or tying into other circuits in the vehicle. This is a lot of sensitive equipment, and you just want to make sure that you're running your power leads, your ground leads, your remote leads, your ignition leads, everything that's needed to run the equipment to the appropriate power sources, grounding sources, and to avoid any type of RF and other types of interference that can make the system not perform the way it's designed to perform. So Ben has already marked the location of where the front and forward radar detector is going to go, and he's going to drill the holes right. So Ben is now mounting the forward-facing radar detector. Unlike traditional window-mounted units, this one actually fixed mounts to the front of a vehicle. You don't want it obstructed by any metal. So this one hangs slightly off the front, but they give you some adjustment so you can move it forward or backward a few inches. So Ben has connected the front radar detector sensor here. It goes up and around all the way up here through the side and through the hole back here, which feeds directly underneath the truck. Now, on many vehicles that you'd install a system like this, you'd want to tie it directly into an ignition wire as instructed, but what we're going to do is we're going to tie the main power into one of my upfitter switches, simply because it gives me the ability to kill the whole system directly from the truck, just as if I was turning off the ignition to the system and it lost power. To me, it's a little bit more convenient. The wires are already there. That's one of the really nice things about having trucks with upfitter switches. If you're fortunate enough to have a newer Super Duty that has the 6 upfitter switches located across the top there, one of the nice things about that setup is you can have a switch specifically set up for just your radar detection system, and if you want to shut off the system, you simply turn one of your switches off. Those switches are also only powered on when the truck is in the on position or physically running. So to kill the power to the radar system, when you turn the key off, it's automatically going to turn it off, or if you just don't want to run the system while you're driving, you can turn it off from one of your upfitter switches. So the GPS antenna has been mounted right here above the mirror. This wire is going to be ran all the way around, the pillar is going to come off, and it's going to follow all the way down to be hardwire connected to the main control module. So guys, if you're wondering why a radar detection system would have GPS, it's because there's a feature built into it called Mark to Mute. So when you're driving, and if there's a one area that always triggers your radar detector, let's say it's a convenience store where they have those radar detection front automatic doors, when you mark to mute an area, it will actually disable the scan of that specific area, and it uses GPS built into the system to do so. So when you drive by and you know that it's the mall, or you know it's Target or Walmart or whatever that's setting it off, every time you go by, just mark to mute that specific area, and it mutes the volume on the system so it doesn't consistently annoy you when you drive by those areas. That's a really cool feature that I like that this system has. So Ben has removed the pillar cover right here so we can run the wire across the top, down the side, through the side panel, and connect it to the bottom control module. One of the things you want to keep in mind when you're running this wire is not to have it overlap this area, because your airbag's going to be in there. So instead of wiring it that way, it's wired around the inside right here and down and around, just not to interfere with airbag function. So hey guys, I got major toolbox envy here. I want Ben to open up his toolbox and just show you how organized he keeps his tools. Go ahead, Ben. Is your electrical drawer?
Yes.
Yeah, mine would, all these tools would be piled up maybe right in this section. Same number of tools, just all piled up in this section right here. Speed wrenches with a ratchet on the end. And of course, this is Texas, so you have to have camouflage tools. I don't think you actually use those camouflage tools though, do you?
They're my backup wrenches.
Backup.
Whenever I'm using impact, I need a backup.
So what Ben's doing right now is he needs to make the template for the control panel, and he's using chalk to go around the template that's included so he knows exactly where his borders are when he's making his cut, because there's a little recessed control panel and bezel that needs to slide into that spot. And here's the control panel right here, and this is the bezel that needs to slide into the hole that he's going to make. Now this is where some custom precision work needs to be done, because he's going to be drilling through the plastic portion of the dash, then kind of carving it out so it fits this perfectly. And that's how you get that really nice, clean, integrated look for your radar detector controller. So the control panel housing is going to slide into here. Control panel is going to go inside. The wire is going to run behind here. So we have the control panel mounted now. Very, very clean installation. Thank you, Ben. I appreciate your precision work there. So guys, we've completed the install. Like I said, the control panel is right here. The control module is mounted up underneath the dash area. It's already been connected. The main power lead, instead of going to an accessory or ignition wire, it's connected to my #1 upfitter switch, and I can turn the system off or on at any time. The cool thing about the install here, it doesn't have a constant 12-volt need. It only has an auxiliary or an ignition power on source, so you don't need to wire anything directly to the battery. I have the LED mounted right here to the side of the instrument panel. When you see incoming radar, it'll actually flash this LED light at you, and you have the ability through the control panel down here to dim that. So if I want to dim it, it's not going to flash so bright at different times. And then, so that's the brightest setting during the day. Dusk. Turns it off during quiet ride, and I can set it for automatic. I don't have the rear radar system on. You actually have the ability to connect both front and rear on this truck. We just connected the front radar in this specific case. The speaker's mounted right here next to the gas pedal. It's actually inset. This piece sticks out further than the actual speaker itself, and the wires just ran up here through a loom going to my PA. So I am just about to leave Trucker's Equipment here because I have the radar detector hooked up to an upfitter switch. When I flip up my auxiliary 1 upfitter, it'll turn the system on.
K40 scan active.
And you can turn that sound off too if you don't like it.
Connected.
It says GPS is connected. I'm going to have the system run while I drive, and hopefully I'll be scanned by somebody. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is a pretty cool system. It is definitely what you would consider a far higher end system than pretty much anything you can buy at most stores. I know Crutchfield and several other places sell the system. However, it is definitely one that is what I would consider professional or pro grade. It's not your cheap $50, Whistler that you're going to buy at Pep Boys. It's definitely a system that's fully integrated in your vehicle. And if you have a newer pickup truck, or if you have just a pickup truck in general that you want more of that clean factory installed look, this is definitely a system I would take a look at. As far as pricing goes, I don't really know what the full systems run. There's several places that you can research them. In the case of my system, I'll put the information in the description below so you know specifically which make and model of system I have. And if that's the one you're looking for, I'll give you my feedback on it as I use the system. And you guys know I do a lot of driving monologue, so I'll have the system running the entire time. So occasionally you may hear the system chime in when it detects the presence of, radar. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed my video. If you do, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Have a wonderful day.